Hello, this is S. LaJoy, and welcome to my closet, and to part 2 on a series on the meaning, purpose, and joy of dance. In part 1, I came to define dance as the beautiful arrangement or art of bodies in motion according to rhythm and form. Part of this definition, however, relied on the premise that dance is an art form. It is my intention here to explore why dance is an art and not just a pastime or communal activity. To do this, I will employ 3 arguments. I will begin by looking at how dance has been recognized as an art form by credible sources throughout the centuries. Then, using the definition of art as I posted it in part 1, as well as select modern definitions, I will show how dance conforms to these definitions. Lastly, I shall refute common objections to my claim. With these arguments, I hope to demonstrate that dance is irrefutably an art. Now let us begin with the argument from authority. As I mentioned in my last presentation, Aristotle in his Poetics mentions that dance is a species of the art of poetry. While it is only a brief mention, he presents it as if it were evident that dance was an art. Many sources of knowledge, including encyclopedias, dictionaries, and many others, assert that dance is an art without a trace of it being a bold or contentious claim. The courts of the rich and powerful have often included dance among the arts that they patronized. While it has often been viewed as a lesser art than painting and music, starting in about the 16th century, it was raised in esteem along with stage play to be one of the higher forms in the form of ballet. While dance, along with the other arts, have seen a decline since the demise of the royals and their patronage, it still thrives in many select circles, especially ballet. Beyond that, even operas include dances played on stages and in movie theaters around the world. Even among the arts of the masses, dance is recognized as an art form no less valid than music and painting. While there are many more sources to draw from, for the sake of brevity, I'm going to move on. Now, in part 1, I defined art as the ordering or arranging of things in a way that conveys some truth or beauty to the beholder. Now, as I've defined art, dance fits perfectly. What I have noticed is that dance in many ways is as much of a partner to sculpture as it is to music or poetry. The same rules of proportion and ratio that determine what makes a sculpture pleasing or ugly applies to dance. If one of the lesser swans in Swan Lake is 2 feet taller than everyone else, it breaks the composition of the dance. It draws attention to a backup role when the attention should really be on the group as a whole or on the lead dancers. Of course, dance differs from sculpture as film differs from pictures. That is, dances exist in time, whereas sculpture exists in one moment. That is where rhythm comes in, ordering the motions within a framework of beat and tempo. If done right, it can not only represent mathematical truths, such as the golden ratio or the Fibonacci sequence, but it can also show a dancer's character. I would invite you to watch the ballet Swan Lake and just see how the villain in that ballet dances. There is more to be said, but I will save that for another presentation. But I do not, however, want to rely on my definition alone. Here are 3 other definitions of art. The first is a dictionary definition, which, while woefully vague, is indicative of most definitions that you're going to find in the dictionaries and encyclopedias. The second, by famous philosopher Leo Tolstoy, focuses on art as a useful tool for uniting humanity. And then the third, from Frank Lloyd Wright, focuses on it as a tool for understanding. That dance fills the first definition is obvious. To the second definition, while dance can be done alone, it is almost always done in groups and or for groups. Dance brings people together and sometimes unites those who would have no other occasion to interact. It is a means of union. People who dance often dance to the same music or will even dance the same dance, which joins them together in common feeling and experience. Dancing also provides physical, mental, and social health, which is indispensable for the life and progress of individuals, groups, and more. To the third definition, dance utilizes the proportions and ratios found in nature and mathematics. It opens our eyes to these realities and helps us to express them. It does this by having people move in ways that are pleasing to behold and yet within the boundaries of human achievement. So at least according to these definitions, dance is an art. Before I conclude, I would like to address common refutations to my thesis that dance is an art. The first is the Puritanical Objection. I would point out that the dance of a bride and her father at a wedding. That dance is a sign by which the father gives his daughter away in matrimony. Their love for each other is evident. Their sadness at parting and their hope and joy for their futures is on display. None of it has to do with deviant behaviors or perversity. Quite the contrary. It is wholesome and natural. A waltz danced by two platonic friends is naturally far different than a waltz of a couple inflamed by the passions. It is not dancing itself, but what the dancers bring to it that makes a dance good or wicked. Now it is true that dance uses the body, but so does a tandem bicycle. Are we to decry those as instruments of perversion? Putting men and women in close quarters does come with a risk, but that risk comes from the people, not the dance. That risk will follow them wherever they go, whatever they do. In another presentation, I hope to cover this issue in full, but we shall leave it here for now. The second objection comes from those who would compare dance to other arts. They might ask, well, where is the Mozart of dance? Or how can something using bodies compare to the sublime beauty of music or marble? Tough questions, to be sure. I would respond that dance follows the same rules as any other art. Part of what made the music of Mozart so great was its complexity, order, strong melody, and uncanny understanding of what is pleasing to the human ear. Is it so hard to imagine that there could be a dance that has themes that are commented on, expanded, modified, and resolved through motion? A dance that is complex yet pleasing to the eye? It would take great skill to create such a dance, but it took a genius to create music on the level of Mozart. So how does this disqualify dance as an art? I say that dance can emote the same beauties as any other art, and if it has not already done so, that the fault lies in our imaginations and not in the art itself. Another objection is that all art is creation, yet dance seems to create nothing. The quick response would be to point out the sibling of dance, which is music. It is also an art that exists in time and uses a medium which is gone as soon as it is made. Music solved this problem using musical notation, which allows consumers to study the mathematical and thematical elements of any given piece of music, as well as to reproduce that music at any time. Sheet music is the sign by which the work of art can be reborn. It would be as if Michelangelo left instructions on every dimension and brushstroke he used to paint the Sistine Chapel, which in fact is partially what he did to instruct his understudies who helped him to paint it. Dance is no different from music in this regard. With proper notation, and dance has that notation, it can be remade by anyone, anywhere, and anytime. If this is not enough to qualify dance as an art, then music is not an art. And that would be a tough claim to make. And while I could go down that road as well, I think it's better to move on. The last objection I will address here is that I am being too serious about a trivial matter. I would respond by saying that I have shown dance to be an art, and while art may not be as fundamental as water and bread, art has power. It has the power to educate while entertaining, the ability to address complex issues in simpler ways, and allows people to experience elements of the human experience without necessarily having to live it in fact. This and more is why dance and all art should be taken seriously while having a good time. Why not both? So to conclude, I hope that I have demonstrated that dance is indeed an art, and I hope that I have addressed any major concerns with that premise. I again implore that dancing be promoted and innovated for the sake of good fun and good art. I'd like to thank you for tuning in to Part 2. Part 3 I hope will be out soon, and I hope that you will see that when it comes out. The music for this video is provided below, and I'd like to thank you for watching, and get dancing.